Today on the Bizinga Downtown Podcast, we have Ryan Grunholz from Tech Ryan, who is going to tell us about all the great things that someone may need, some things to think about, and some things to probably partake in. So, Ryan, thanks for coming down, and can you give us a little bit about your company?
We started the company in 2003. And we've just continuously built up from there. Essentially, we offer small business IT services, anything from Exchange, business class email hosting to firewall security, VoIP services, which is voice over IP telephone service. We also offer web design, web hosting, and many other features, some other security type features as well, such as surveillance cameras and things of that nature.
So security is a very interesting topic these days, right?
Right.
There are bad things out there. Pretty sure I've seen some people in front of some congressional conversations that are probably a little crazy, but we won't go there today. We won't talk about politics today.
Right.
So how important is security? What are bad things that happen, and why do they happen?
The importance of security for a business is huge. If your business isn't protected, you could get viruses, ransomware, which is a new one. Most people are familiar with that because it's kind of a hot security topic right now, and it essentially, if you're not protected, then your company data could be it could be data intrusion. They could steal your data. They could encrypt your data, essentially crippling your business for a length of time until that's all resolved.
Is there a reason why they call it ransomware? Because they ask for money in exchange for unlocking the stuff?
Correct. Yes, they essentially hold your data ransom, and the only way to get your data out of ransom is to pay with Bitcoins, which most people aren't familiar with. It's a very difficult process to go through. Essentially, I call it the black market of online funding, so that it's not traceable, non-refundable, and in most cases you'll pay the ransom and still not get your data back. So the only foolproof way of getting your data back is to make sure that you have some sort of an off-site backup, a remote backup that has retention to it, data retention, which basically means you can go back several days and get your data back to where it was prior to that ransomware occurring. And the same thing could happen with a virus. You could get a virus on your server or on your network, and it would essentially wipe out your data. It wouldn't encrypt it, but it would just delete all of your files. So again, offsite backup is about the only way to protect yourself from that.
And do you have an example of any ransomware? We don't have to probably say the company name, but we could say, how do you deal with it? So if I called up Tech Ryan and I think I got a problem, and you identify that I've got ransomware or a virus, what do I do now?
Well, as soon as you contact us, we immediately disconnect all of your devices from the internet, and we remove the ransomware if there is a data backup. If there's not a data backup, then you really don't have any choice but to pay the ransomware. So you have to leave everything online and as is until you pay the ransom and hopefully get the decryption key sent to you via email from whoever encrypted the data. So those are your only two options when you get ransomware. So you would call us, we would come in, evaluate the situation, see how much data has been damaged, and essentially come up with a game plan moving forward to resolve the ransomware, Trojan, whatever it is that's on your network.
And how do you prevent that from happening up front?
And that's a problem with a lot of businesses these days. They think that that their old router is going to protect them. A lot of businesses still run residential routers that they go purchase at Best Buy or Walmart or wherever. The thing about those devices are they're easily hacked into, and then when they're hacked into, essentially they can open up the firewall and gain access to your internal network, so that they can steal your data and also possibly encrypt it with ransomware. So essentially you need some sort of a dynamic firewall, which what that means is the firewall itself will download new definitions that are produced by whoever the manufacturer is, that pushes those to the firewall to block new threats that are out there that you may not be aware of. But these security companies that manufacture these firewall devices, they're already aware of these, and they push out these updates, in a sense, blocking that ransomware threat from coming through in the first place.
So you do you do online backup, and you obviously install firewalls and all that good stuff. So everybody hears the word firewall, and I'm sitting here listening to you talk, and I'm thinking, man, firewall, do I really need a firewall? What does that mean? And now I get it. So
the firewall essentially is, you can compare it to a firewall in a vehicle. It's what protects you from something dangerous. In the vehicle, it protects you from the engine and the heat of an engine. So in business, it protects you from the danger of the outside world. So it's the first point of contact of any data coming in or going out from your location and anything that's behind that firewall.
That's awesome. So best practices for small, medium-sized businesses. I'm sure that this would probably, I know some of your clients, we could probably talk about categories: attorneys, accountants, dentists, insurance agents, all of these different categories, pretty susceptible to some of those threats.
Absolutely. Yeah. And a lot of people think, or a lot of business owners think, that they're not susceptible because they're not a large business. So why would anybody want to do anything with their data? Well, for one, with ransomware, they don't care how big or small your business is. They're just trying to get money out of you. But even with smaller businesses, especially a lot of smaller businesses that have outdated routers or firewalls, they're easily targeted because there are large servers out there, server farms essentially, that are scanning the entire internet looking for these types of routers and firewalls that have open security holes and so forth. So small businesses are targeted just as much as a large business would be. And
we don't, excuse me, we don't have, what about Johnny? My cousin Johnny is awesome at hooking up routers and stuff. Is that maybe a bad practice for a business?
What do you mean, to have your relative come in and hook up a router?
A buddy, whatever.
Yes, it's not generally a good idea to do that, because they don't have the access or resources to get the higher end equipment that will block these things from happening. They have access to go to a retail store and purchase a router that does not have dynamic security protection on there. So it's the cheap way out up front, but could be a very expensive.
Could be costly in the end.
Could be devastating in the end. And you basically have to factor how much income you would lose if your business were down for a few days, or if you were not able to ever retrieve your data. There are a lot of businesses that can't recover from that. And so essentially, when you can't recover your data and what your accounts receivable are and what's owed to you and what you owe to other people, essentially that would cripple your business to the point of closing your doors potentially.
Well, that would suck. We don't want that for anybody that's listening to this podcast. That's not a threat. Just please think about security, right? So security is a big deal. You do email?
Yeah.
So email server, what's What's the advantages? I mean, there's a lot of choices out there for email, whether it be, hey, I'm going to get a Gmail, I'm going to do maybe even Google Business. You do Server Exchange. I'm well aware of what you do because you do ours.
Right.
So Server Exchange, and then there's obviously other providers and services out there. What does a business need, and what should they look for?
Well, there are a lot of businesses that still run on a Gmail account, which basically is an unbranded email account. Typically, a business should brand their email domain for their email addresses. So your email address would be such and such user at yourcompany.com as opposed to such and such user at gmail.com. That makes it easy for somebody receiving the email to also have your website URL, so they have it right in front of them. They can go to your website. It also makes it look more professional rather than using a free Gmail account. And then when you're talking about like a Google business email account, you can still brand your email address with that service. However, they use kind of an antiquated method for their email hosting. It's called IMAP and POP3, which it's been around since day one, essentially, of email. So we offer a Microsoft Exchange business class hosted solution with Barracuda email security. Hold on just a second. Business class email hosting with Barracuda security will essentially protect your business by filtering out spam, filtering out viruses, and things of that nature.
Because there's a problem there too, right?
That's a big problem, especially with phishing scams that are going on. You'll get an email from someone asking you to click on a link to log in to what you think is your bank account, but it's really not. And essentially, when you go to log in there, they just collect your login information with some sort of a keystroke logging system, and then they have access to your banking account. So you want to protect yourself definitely at the email level as well, so that you're not going to be a target for a phishing scam.
So what's the cost of email? So there are those free services out there, probably some problems, some potential threats involved with that. What is the cost per email box?
Per mailbox is about $8. So when you look at that in business terms, that's a small cost to pay, if you will, to know that you've got secure business class email. One easy phone number to call to get in touch with us so that we can address any issues that you might have. We also monitor email to make sure that it's not going over a quota that would then prevent you from receiving emails. So there are a lot of things that go on in the background of the business class email that we manage from our end.
Yeah, guys, I would tell you, I could imagine, if somebody clicks on a wrong link and some bad things happen really, really fast, because it's not about just that machine, right? It's about whatever's on that network. Mm-hmm. So typically a server situation.
Right, potentially a server situation, but we see it a lot anymore with, we even see it with like Google Drive accounts. A new phishing scam is right now, they'll send you an email and say, someone tried to log into your Google Drive account, we need you to reset your password. Well, it didn't come from Google. It could have come from a potential hacker that is going to lead you down a link and then steal your login information, and then they have access to all your Google Drive docs, for instance, which could have financial information in there, customer information. They also have access to your contact list, which they will suck down essentially into a database, and then email those people in your contacts from what appears to be your account. So essentially, another term I'll throw out here is spoofing your account. So essentially they'll spoof your name and send an email to someone that you do know that's in your contact list. That person thinks it is a it's a trustworthy email. It's coming from someone they know, but it's really not, because someone's just spoofed that email address and your name. So they'll click on a link in there, they'll open an attachment, they think it's safe when it's really not.
I think we've all experienced a little bit of that before, right?
Sure.
I think I got an email from JR the other day. I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
But we've all seen this, right?
Right.
Where that we call it getting hacked. It's not really getting hacked. It's getting spoofed. Thank you for the proper technologies term. So now, next time that happens to me and I get some email from somebody, I will make sure to let them know they've been spoofed.
Right.
I think you've been spoofed.
Yeah. So, so that's another one of the methods of securing your business is having secure email, along with the firewall, along with offsite backup. And you bundle those things together, and you're pretty much about as secure as you're going to get. And if anything happens, we can bring you back to where you were.
Well, it's interesting because I know you guys do a lot with websites. I mean, as far as how you host websites. I mean, we don't have to get all the technical side of it, but the reality is that websites can get hacked too, right? With malware and things like that. And what's the protocol there? How do we prevent that? You don't have to get into the technical.
Sure. Well, essentially, with a website, we will install essentially a local firewall on the website. That will monitor traffic trying to brute force a login to your website data, because once they get through that login, then they have access to put malware all over your website, and when that happens, it's very hard to clean that up. If you don't have a backup of that, then you could be stuck recreating the website from scratch. That's one of the methods. We use another type of firewall, and I don't know if I can say company names, but we use another firewall that also protects you from known hacker IP addresses. So we have that in place as well. So we kind of have a layered security, if you will, for your website. It's also on a virtual private server, so each website's on its own server. So if a website does somehow potentially get hacked, it can't bleed over into the other websites.
Probably not something commonly known out there is shared server space, right? Hey, I go to this hosting company, but there's 2,500 websites on the exact same server that I'm on, and somebody else gets intruded upon, it can bleed right over to mine.
Exactly.
And that can be a real mess, right?
And that's typically what you get for a hosted a shared hosting solution, which is definitely less expensive.
So you're saying if I can get my website hosted for $10 a month, that's probably not a good deal.
Probably not a good deal. If you're a startup business and you are trying to save money, then it might not be a bad thing, but you definitely want to take frequent backups of your website, which is another one of those processes that you have to be diligent about. Otherwise, you could lose your entire website, or it could go down for several days. And how much business are you losing if somebody can't get to your website? So it's
malware can be terrible, man. I mean, it can be probably better just to start over in some cases. Some of that stuff doesn't go away.
No, and it will also, I'll throw another term out there, also blacklist your domain and your IP address of your website, which means that all the major providers out there are preventing their users from going to your website because it's on a blacklist, because it's known to have malware. If that happens, it is very difficult to get your website off of all the blacklists that it puts it on. I mean, there's hundreds and thousands of websites that house that blacklisting data. And when that happens, it's very difficult and time-consuming to fix.
So we've talked about a lot of negative stuff today.
Yeah.
I want to thank you for coming on this show and just telling us about all the negative stuff out there and all the hey, it's my birthday and I'm about to cry over here. So,
well, it's not a scare tactic. it is what we do. So we have to let people know and be aware of these things. I mean, because we secure our clients with this. We try and convince them to use the same products and services that we use ourselves, because we know that we're protected. So it's not a scare tactic by any means. It's just letting you know what's out there.
I think it's an interesting thing, because it's really about being proactive. Right.
Correct.
A lot of times we don't. We all like you said. Hey, I'm a new business. I'll get to that. Well, a lot of times when you get to it, it's when you have the problem. So, guys, take the opportunity to maybe look up Tech Ryan. Take a good look at, maybe even a second opinion on what your security looks like, not just from the website itself, but from any servers. I mean, accountants, lawyers, dentists, doctors, all of this stuff is, and there's some HIPAA stuff.
Oh yeah, we definitely deal with a lot of HIPAA compliancy and PCI compliancy as well, which entails some of the same details that we've been discussing. There are a couple other security services that we offer to make a company HIPAA compliant. There is, at least one other service that we recommend, and essentially, if we can check everything off that checklist, then you'll be HIPAA and PCI compliant.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Well, Ryan, how do you help out your customers from a customer service standpoint? I know you're a local business, so local to out in Plainfield, but in Indianapolis, I know you got a client. You're probably going to walk out this door and walk over to their building here.
Right.
So, easy to work with. I mean, what's you phone? Is it just email support, phone support? What do you guys do?
We do obviously on-site support, which means we come to your business and support your hardware on site. We also do remote support, which is great. We can just remote onto your computer and fix an issue in minutes. Phone support and email support, texting. There are several different ways to get in touch with us, and we try and make it easy for our clients to get in touch with us, which is what a lot of businesses find difficult with some larger companies, is that you may have to go through several channels and wait, an extended amount of time in order to get your issue resolved.
That's great, and I personally can vouch for it because I've seen it firsthand. Great company, definitely someone I would reach out to, even if you just want a second opinion on, hey, am I secure? Maybe we talked a lot about security today, but maybe you need a new website. Maybe you need a VoIP phone. We didn't really get into VoIP phones today, but probably what Ryan really wanted to come in here and talk about was VoIP phones. But we're gonna have Ryan back on another time, and we'll talk about maybe some of those positive things, the VoIP phones, the where we can save money, right?
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, you can always save money with us. It's actually, and that's truthful. I mean, we compare our services, our pricing for our services with a lot of other companies, and in a lot of cases we're the same price or lower than the big companies, and on occasion we might be a little bit more. But for the customer service that you get with that, we feel that it's a justifiable, increase in cost. But like I said, it's minimal. You're typically talking maybe 5 or 10% difference in a larger company.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, these are things you have to do. It's not like I want to or I should. You really have to. So, Ryan, Thanks for coming down. I know we're going to have you on again. I can't wait to have you on again. We'll talk about VoIP. We'll talk about all that good stuff. Ryan's even possibly going to start his own podcast about technology, so I can't wait to hear that. Thanks again, buddy.
All right, no
Talk
problem.
to you soon.
Thank you.